Hello, hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it is the Sunday 10 a.m. technique at the Let's See New York online crop. And we are going to be creating today and making some fun stuff. And the game for the first game this morning has already been posted, as well as the challenges for the day. Now, just as a little reminder, we here in Ontario, specifically near Toronto, have switched from daylight savings time to Eastern Standard Time. So our time went back an hour last night or early this morning. So if you are adjusting your times based on where you live, just keep in mind that our time change has happened. So everything's gone back an hour. So we're on Eastern Standard Time if you're trying to Google it and figure everything out. And also, this is the last day for our crop. We continue on right till midnight. You can post any games or challenges that you want to participate in right up until actually 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Monday, November the 6th. And if you are interested in placing an order, you can do that anytime up till 11 a.m. tomorrow, November the 6th, in order to take advantage of the crop specials. So those are important little housekeeping details that we have to share. And our next crop is going to be in December from the 7th until the 10th, and that should be exciting. Looking forward to it already. So this morning we're going to be creating, and if you clicked on the link to come in and you noticed what the topic is, it's why am I repeating myself? If you have got children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, or even spouses, sometimes you repeat yourself a lot and you're like, why am I repeating myself 10 times? It happens in crafting too, and you're going to see that today. So we have been focusing on our new November-December catalog during the crop, and also for the whole month of November we have our featured collection, which is Silver Bells, and it's beautiful. And I'm going to be using, again, the card making stamp set from Silver Bells, but I'm not going to be using any of the Silver Bells paper or embellishments or anything. I'm off-roading, and we're going to take everything a little bit brighter, a little bit sparkly today. You gotta love some sparkle. So that means we are jumping into our Essentials catalog. This was formerly known as the Core catalog. This is the Essentials. This is where all the inks and cardstocks and other specialty papers are found, as opposed to the collections, which are in the 2-month catalogs. This is where all the tools and things like that are, re-inkers, adhesives, all that good stuff, and also the color of the year, which is Journey, and you can see that pictured here along with our color wheel. And so this Journey color is beautiful. It's not quite my nail polish color, but that's okay. So we're going to be using some Journey today. We're also going to be using some glitter paper. We're going to be using the Journey glitter paper. It's the color of the year. We got to use it. And we're also going to be using a couple of the new cardstock colors, which are Rosy and Limeade. So we are sort of hitting those Christmassy colors, quote marks, with sort of a reddish and sort of a greenish, but a little bit different, a little bit punchier, a little bit sort of modern. And that's kind of fun too, because we can take something that looks like traditional Christmas fare, and we can mix it up and make it a little bit more pizzazzy and bright and colorful. So let's get started. We are going to be creating a Slimline card today. And so I'm going to start with my Slimline card base. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can just say replay. I see Heather is here. Good morning, Heather, and Laura. Good morning, good morning. Hey, Robin. Ooh, Heather, you're at work. Nice to see you join in. Uh-oh, Robin's saying it's very choppy and it keeps skipping. I hope that that gets resolved. Oh, you logged out and logged back in and it's working better. Awesome. Yeah, sometimes the internet, sometimes you just seem to get a bad connection sometimes. And it happens on my end too. Sometimes my screen goes blank and I'm like, are we still recording? So you never know. So we're starting out with our Slimline card base. And a Slimline card ends up being a 3.5 by 8.5 inch card. So this has been pre-scored, and this is the bump side. This is the dip side. We always crease it with the bump side to the inside. Just make sure everything lines up. Give it a nice little score down. Oh no, it's still doing it, Robin. Oh gosh. What a pain, eh? Good morning, Mary. Oh yes, Heather. Yes, you definitely repeat yourself a lot at work. It's not just with kids and spouses. You just, it's like people just don't listen, right? So we're starting out with our card base, and immediately we are going to come in with something pizzazzy. This is the Journey glitter paper. Look at the color and the sparkle on this glitter paper. And I love, close to my heart, glitter paper because you can cut it with your trimmer and it does not shed sparkles. Like, there's no glitter coming off of it. It all stays on the paper, but it has the lovely texture and just that beautiful sparkle. So this piece has been cut to 3.5. No, that is not what it is. I wrote it down wrong. 3.25 by 8.5. Let me just fix that because I'm going to write it down later on when I post it, and if I write 3.5, I'm going to confuse everybody. 3.25 by 8.5. I am creating my card on the vertical today. So we're going straight up and down with this long, skinny card. So we're going to start out by adding our glitter paper. And you may have noticed when I said the measurement there that I said 8.5. That means this is the full height of my card, but we're 1/4 inch less on the width. So let's just take that backing off, and we're going to see if we can't line this up. Let me see. I always like to kind of help myself by having those Versamat lines. So we're going to have a little 1/8 of an inch on either side and see if we can keep it straight-ish. There we go. Not bad. Not bad. Sometimes hard with a big long piece like that. So we're going to leave that little tiny white border on either side, which I think is fun. It's kind of a break from all that glitter, but we are going to cover up quite a bit of this glitter, okay? Oh no. Okay. Robin, yep. Sometimes the replay works better. And I know my mom even, she prefers watching it once I post it to YouTube because YouTube just works way better for her than Facebook. It's just one of those things, right? And she lives kind of far away from a major center, and I think that it kind of has that effect. Okay, we're going to do some stamping. And the image from the stamp set that I want to use is this fun ornament that's got a bow. It's got some holly. So let me just grab a piece of white paper here. And this is just plain white daisy cardstock. And you can tell this is out of my scrap drawer. I always keep my white daisy scraps in a drawer right beside me so that I can use it anytime I need to. I'm going to use my intense black ink for this because I'm going to be coloring it. So we're just going to ink up our stamp and stamp it down. There we go. Yep, that turned out pretty good. Sometimes I don't know because I'm stamping kind of in the middle of my Versamat. The Versamat is a great stamping surface, but my table has a bow to it. So sometimes that affects how it stamps. But that turned out great. And now we're going to come in with some markers. And I'm using 4 different colors here of the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. I'm going to start out with blue turquoise shades. which is a lovely color. And I always like to have my scrap paper here, because I can hold it, but also I can check my colors and just confirm before I start the coloring that that's the color I want. It's kind of important to make sure that you've got the color you want. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to color, and you'll notice that I just stamped this image, and I'm already coming in with markers, and it's because the Intense Black ink is just that good. It's the best one for going right on top with your markers or your watercolors or whatever you want to use. And I'm just kind of following the pattern on this ornament and coloring in some spots. Now these markers have a fairly big end on them. So I find that you just kind of glance the marker, like the very tip of the marker, when you have to get into those fine little corners. Just sort of, whoop, you know, you got to kind of pull it away and let it do its thing. Then I'm going to move to the pale pink shades, and I'm going to use the darkest one. So for that blue turquoise, let me double check. Blue turquoise shades, I used the lightest one. So for the pale pink shades, I'm going to use the darkest one. And I'm going to color the bow in. I'm not going to do any kind of marker blending to create shadow, because this stamped image actually has shadow lines already on it, and I don't think I need to do anything else to it. So this is a great one for people who maybe are a little wary of their coloring skills. It's just a color in the lines type of thing. So we'll just go around and add this lovely pink on here, and this pink looks really nice with the Journey. That blue turquoise shade works really lovely. Sorry, the blue turquoise works with the Journey. This pale pink shades looks really great with the Rosy color. And that Rosy color was a sneak peek, if you remember, from the Dream Maker collection. That's where it was first introduced. That was a lovely collection. I know some of you are still working your way through those papers and creating lots of fun stuff. And then I'm coming in with the light green blend, and I'm going to use the mid color, and I'm just going to color my little holly leaves here. Fill those in. This looks great with the Limeade. So I'm trying to keep all my coloring on my image to match the cardstocks that I said I was going to use. And I think that is also part of the repeating yourself, right? We're not going to branch out and use colors outside the realm of what we had planned, because we want it to match. And when you're repeating yourself, you say the same thing every time. Although there is that saying that says, what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we're doing it over and over again, but we want the same result. So that's okay. We're not insane. I'm just going ahead and coloring in some of the details on the ornament here. So there were little sort of leafy sprigs. Now I'm going to come back in with that same dark version of the pale pink shades to color in these little dots, and then just kind of draw on top of these little swirls here, just to add a little bit of color there. But I do like that white showing through. And then the last one, this is where we're going a little off the rails. We're bringing in the dark red shades, and we're going to use the darkest one, and we're just going to color these holly berries. There's only 3 of them. And you know what? The pink would have worked as well, but I went for the red. Traditionalist. There's my little nod to the tradition. Oh, pardon me. 1 second. Going to take a sip. Take a look at that ornament there, if the camera will focus. The camera is having a hard time focusing. It usually doesn't, but today it is. So anyway, we've colored it up. Now, last night when I was working on coloring up a few of these, I realized partway through that I actually have the thin cuts for this particular stamp set. But my die cut machine is on the other side of my room. And so that would involve me like getting it up, going across the room, getting it out, finding my washi tape, running it through, and then putting it away. And I thought, you know what? My scissors are right here. So, as you know, me and my fussy cutting addiction, my addiction and I, decided we would just fussy cut out these and save ourselves the trip across the room. So when you're fussy cutting, you want to leave a nice little halo of your background around the outside, because that's your little buffer against accidentally chopping off a portion of your image. And when you die cut, you get the same look. When you have a sticker, you get that same look. So we're not not used to seeing it. Does that make sense? So we might as well do it, and we use it to our advantage, pivoting our paper as we cut. And I also use the part of my scissors that's closest to the connection. I don't tend to go to the tip unless I really need to, because I find I have less control over what happens. Whoops, I did a boo-boo. I'd have a less control over what happens the farther I get from my hand. There we go. So, saved myself a trip across the room and just used my scissors. Now, we're talking about repetition. So we have not one, not two, but three of these. And they have been done identically. And that's the thing about repetition. Yes, I could do three different things, but there is a really big impact that is created when you repeat the same thing over and over and over again. It's like forming a habit. You have to do the thing over and over again for it to become a habit. So, and once you have a good habit, that's awesome. When you got a bad habit, not so good. But when you're trying to create that impact of repetition, it's really good to use the same thing over and over again. So, on the same token, we are going to use the same cardstock over and over again. And this is the Rosy cardstock, and I have cut it to 2 3/4 inches. We're going to layer that up with a little bit of Journey. So I've got 3 pieces of Journey. You can see how we're doing the same thing over and over. And this Journey is 2 1/2 inches square. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those together. I'll just get some adhesive on these pieces. You know what, actually, I'm going to grab one more thing. We're also going to be layering up with a bit of Limeade. So I've got my Limeade here. 1, 2, 3. And these pieces of Limeade have been cut to 2 3/8. So there's going to be more of the Rosy showing than of the Journey. Okay, so the Journey is just going to be a tiny little frame around the Limeade, between the Limeade and the Rosy. And that's nice too, because we have a lot of Journey on this sparkle, right? So we're just giving a little tiny touch of the Journey in the cardstock. So let's start layering. And the reason why I grabbed the Limeade too is I find when you're layering, it's sometimes easier to start with the smallest piece first and then work up to the bigger piece. Does anybody else find that? Or do you like to start with the biggest piece and then put the smaller pieces on top? What's your go-to plan for that sort of configuration? I also find when it's really weird, when the edges get smaller, I find it's easier to sometimes hold the piece of paper in the air. Weird quirks that you figure out about yourself when you're paper crafting. When you're trying to line up something that's very finicky, you would think you would want to have it on a really sturdy, flat surface. But no, I want to hold it in the air. So weird. Good morning, Deborah. Nice to see you're watching. Oh, Robin's back. Yay! Restarting the tablet. You know what? I flipped my journey over and put the put this on the wrong side. So what we're going to do, because I'm putting Limeade on there anyway, I want the right side of my journey showing. We're just going to stick it right on top. Look at that. I was going to say we'll take our rub and remove eraser and remove the adhesive, but no, we're not, because we're just going to add more to the proper side. That worked out well. Whew, gotta love it when a plan comes together. Now we can go ahead and add these Limeade and Journey to our Rosy. And again, we can lift it up in the air. Yep, Mary does smallest to largest too. Yep, I think a lot of people do. I think it's because it's easier to be lining up near the edge than to be, as you work your way in, you're getting farther and farther from the edge, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Maybe it makes sense. Makes sense in my brain. Oh, we already got our adhesive on this one. Let's just go ahead and take that off. Mary, do you also hold things in the air when they're small and you're lining up little pieces? Or am I just weird that way? I know I'm weird in many ways, but could be weird in that way too. And then our last one. The other thing about this kind of pattern is that we're cutting all the same shape. I mean, I could have cut circles, and you would use a die cut for that, because circles are the hardest thing to fussy cut. But because we're using squares, it's just, you know, zip, zip, zip on your paper trimmer. So quick and easy. Now, we've got our little squares all lined up here, and we have been using this adhesive. Top tip, do not use this on glitter paper. It's just not going to hold. You got to use liquid glue. So find the liquid glue that you love, and you're going to use that. Because the liquid glue, and you're going to want to use a decent amount of liquid glue. Like I'm putting a bead of liquid glue, and then there we go. Because the glue has to get down in all the little crevasses of the glitter paper. Yes, I said crevasses. I don't know why. It sounded fancy. The crevices, all the little nooks and crannies. So we're going to line it up from side to side and just have a tiny little smidge of the journey showing, just like we have a tiny little smidge of the journey showing in between the Rosy and the Limeade. Then I'm going to jump up to the top here. Yes, I turned it around. I got to remember that I did that, because otherwise I'll be having a left-handed card. Remind me if I don't fix that. Say, left-handed. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Now, I know that I need to leave just a smidgen of the journey. If I didn't know that, I would put all three pieces on my card front and decide that. But I know that. Okay, I'm going to do it already. I'm going to turn it around to make sure that we're going the right direction. Mary holds things in the air too. It just seems to work. It seems counterintuitive when you're doing something fiddly to hold it in the air. Like, why would you not have it nice and flat so it's not moving? But it just seems to work. And even this, I couldn't do it on a layout, but on a card, I think it gives me a better view of what I'm doing. That might be the reason. And then we just line that up in between. Now, if you notice with your liquid glue that anything weird starts happening, you get any warping, you can always put something on top, like you can put an ink pad or something, just to keep it stuck down into that glitter, but I think I'm doing good there. We've got that done. Now we're going to add on our lovely images, and I want to give them a little bit of prominence with all this glitter and color that's happening. So we're going to flip these over and add some foam tape to the back side, just to make them stick up a little bit. This is the regular foam tape, not the thin kind. It's narrow, but it's not thin. So we're just going to add a few pieces to each one. There we go. And you can see that those markers bleed through somewhat. So that is why, if you're trying to stamp an image and you want to put it on your card front, you're going to want to use an extra layer of cardstock to stamp and color on and then add it to your card front. Otherwise, when you open up your card, you're going to find that you've got all sorts of marker in there. And that may not be the look you're going for. You can solve it, however, if you have that happen, by just adding some pattern paper or something on the inside of your card to cover it up. All right, the other thing I like to do, here's another tip, is if I'm trying to stick down something and I want to get it in the middle, if I put my hands like this, I cannot see where the edges of my image are. So if I use my tweezers, I'm trying to get my head over everything here, if I use my tweezers, I can see my whole thing underneath that I'm trying to stick to, as opposed to when I have my hands here and then I can't see anything. Maybe, I know I have big hands. I do. I have like man-sized hands, but I just find this easier. I was very excited when I got my tweezers for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I can do now that were so difficult before. Crazy that. There we go. Sadly, those are retired. You have to get them from somewhere else. We don't carry them in our Essentials catalog anymore. But this was not the first time we had them. It seems that they come back every so often, so that's always a good thing. Okay, and the last one. I'm going to scooch it down closer to me so I can see what I'm doing, because with this repetition that we're doing, we want to kind of make everything samey. That's the thing with repetition. You're doing the same thing over and over again, so you want to make sure they're all lined up and everything looks lovely. And then we're going to switch it up a bit, okay? Because although we've done all the repetition and we like the repetition, we want to do something that kind of breaks it up just a tiny bit. And so I'm going to come in with my Journey ink and this sentiment from the stamp set that says Season's Greetings. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to allow my piece of scrap paper to work for me. I know this is a lovely right angle, so I am going to attempt to stamp straight. That didn't do very well. Let's try that again. I didn't ink it up all that great. We're going to use this right angle. And we're going to stamp that. There we go. And then I only have to cut a couple sides because 2 of the sides are already cut for me. So let's rough cut this out first. And then, well, I might have to trim it anyway. Just because I like the little roundy bit on the corner. And I want to get a little closer to the ink line. You know. Those fussy cutters, man. They're a strange bunch. There we go. But in all reality, I could have just used the edge that was already there. And that's why I did that. I am going to now come in with some of the thin foam tape and add some foam tape to the back of my sentiment. I'm just going to do one big piece all the way across. And this is where we're going to break up all of the beautiful symmetry and repetition that we have. And that will actually make our sentiment stand out a little more from all the same stuff that's happening. Because this is just a little sentiment. So what we're going to do is we're going to add it here on the side. We're going to make sure that we still maintain the edge line of that glitter paper. But we're going to go off the cardstock a little bit and just add that on there like that. And then we need some sort of little embellishment. So I have the Journey dots here. And these don't have any glitter. They're just enamel dots. So they got a nice little bit of shine. And of course there are circles and hearts and stars. And so let's grab this big circle here. And this is where we're also going to divert, whatever, from all of the symmetry. So we're going to put our dots in a little bit different placement here and there. So we put a big one, a medium one, let's put a little one, and that's created a little triangle there. That looks lovely. And then we don't want to forget about this one because it's up here all by itself. So let's add another medium and a little one. And what this is doing, lots of tips happening here. What this is doing is it's creating another visual triangle, a very long one, but it's also making an uneven number. So you'll notice we have 5 of those dots. We also have 3 groupings of the cardstock and the ornament. So our brain likes 3s. We have 3 mattings, 1, 2, 3. So lots of things that are happening in here. Even on our ornaments, we have 3 white stripes. So our brains are loving the repetition. We are also loving the little bit of asymmetry. We're loving all of our odd numbers and our visual triangles. So lots of fun things going on in this card, and that is the power of being repetitive and repeating yourself. It doesn't always work with kids or spouses, you know? Sometimes you just gotta nag them a little more. So we started out with our Slimline card base. We added on that nice long mat of the Journey glitter paper to hold all of our repeated pattern over together and make them cohesive. We layered up with the Rosy, the Journey, and the Limeade, and then popped up our ornaments that have been colored in the same colorations, adding them in the center, and then stamping out our sentiment again in the same color, that Journey color, and adding the Journey dots, breaking up a little bit of that repetition with some asymmetry. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that come together. And don't worry, I'm sure I'll repeat all of that again sometime during another video. Have a wonderful rest of the morning, and we will be on at 11:30 for Chat and Craft. We'll see you then. Toodaloo. Bye.